Ever heard about those ghost ships? You know, the ones doomed at sea, forever sailing the ethereal plane. But what if that ghost ship was actually docked? Like right here, open for tours and everything. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. The Queen Mary,
Oh, yeah, she's a legend.
permanently moored in Long Beach, California. This isn't just some ocean liner, it's practically synonymous with the word haunted, you know. But the Queen Mary, it's more than just spooky stories, right? So, I mean, launched in 1936, this thing was the peak of luxury. Speed even served as a troop carrier back in World War II, retired in 67, now she's a hotel, a museum, and, well, according to a lot of people, a pretty active spot for paranormal activity.
It's got a reputation, that's for sure.
Definitely. And today, we're not just going to rehash the same old ghost stories. We're going deeper, way deeper. We want to know why this ship, out of all the ships out there, is such a magnet for the paranormal. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
So let's get right into it. Let's talk about the evidence. What are people actually saying they've experienced on board? We're talking unexplained noises, whispers in completely empty rooms,
Oh, I've heard about those.
footsteps just echoing down hallways, but there's no one there, disembodied laughter.
And that's not even getting into the visual stuff yet.
Right, and it's not just random creaks and groans either. It tends to center around certain spots on the ship. Places with, let's just say, a bit of a tragic past.
Like the children's cool area?
Yeah, exactly. That's a heartbreaking story. A young girl supposedly drowned there. Some visitors, they claim they still see her ghost, just playing by the water. And then there's the engine room. Shivers. The heart of any ship, but on the Queen Mary.
Go on.
It's said to be haunted by a crew member who was, well, crushed to death there.
It can really get to you. It's like the atmosphere itself changes, a sudden chill, that feeling like you're being watched.
Yeah.
It just adds another layer to the whole Queen Mary experience.
Definitely. It's like our senses go into overdrive, ready to interpret any little sound as something, well, paranormal. It makes you wonder, though, what is it about this ship in particular? What makes it so prone to these stories?
Well, the individual ghost stories are one thing, right? But to really get the Queen Mary's reputation, we've got to zoom out a little. Look at the big picture.
Because this isn't just any retired ocean liner. We're talking about a real piece of history here.
Right, exactly. Don't forget, this ship served in World War II. Imagine that. Sailing across the Atlantic, packed with soldiers, all that energy, the anticipation, the fear. It was a very dangerous time.
And there's that story, right, about the Queen Mary accidentally ramming a British ship during the war. Hundreds of people died.
A terrible tragedy. And even after the war, the Queen Mary saw its share of accidents. Some deaths, too, even during its passenger years. It all adds up,
That's a lot of heavy history. Do you think it could be, I don't know, almost woven into the ship itself?
It's definitely a possibility. And that leads us to this idea of residual energy. You see this come up a lot in paranormal investigations.
So we're not just talking about, like, conscious spirits, more like
No.
echoes of past events.
Exactly. Echoes, imprints left behind. Whether it's scientifically plausible or not, it's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
Absolutely. But that's just one piece of the puzzle,
Mm.
right?
Right. Because then you've got to factor in the power of suggestion. Think about it. People visit the Queen Mary, and they already have certain expectations. They've heard the stories, seen the documentaries.
Maybe read a few too many spooky novels in their day.
Exactly. It all feeds into our perception. We're primed to interpret things a certain way. It's a bit like watching a scary movie late at night,
Every creak in the house suddenly becomes a whole lot more ominous.
Right. Our minds are incredibly powerful. And that's where the media comes in. The Queen Mary's reputation as a haunted ship, it's constantly being reinforced. Books, TV shows, websites. There's a whole industry built around this stuff.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. The more we hear about the Queen Mary being haunted, the more we look for it, and the more likely we are to experience something that seems unexplainable.
Precisely. It's hard to separate genuine experiences from those influenced by, well, by our own expectations.
And our desires. Don't forget about those.
You're right. Our desire to believe can be a powerful thing. But there's another layer to this whole thing that we haven't even touched on yet.
It's like we've talked about the ship's energy, right? And
Yeah.
how our minds can play tricks on us, how the media loves a good ghost story. But there's something else going on here.
Oh, absolutely.
The Queen Mary. It's not just a supposedly haunted ship. It's a business.
You got it. That's a really important point. The Queen Mary, they actually capitalize on this whole haunted reputation.
Yeah.
Ghost tours, paranormal investigations. They even have events, themed events,
Yeah.
all centered around the ship's, ghostly lore.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think, Is it ethical to profit off of these stories, whether they're real or not?
Yeah. It's true. It's a tough one because, on the one hand, you've got to keep the lights on, right?
Mhm.
Preserve this amazing piece of history, keep the ship afloat.
Right.
But then again, are we, I don't know, exploiting these tragedies, these stories, just for entertainment?
Yeah.
It's a fine line, really.
It is. And it makes us really examine, really analyze what we're seeing and hearing.
Hmm.
Are these ghost tours really about connecting with the past? Or are they just, spectacles designed to give people a thrill?
It's hard to know for sure. So where does that leave us? We've got history, psychology, the media, even a little bit of showmanship thrown in. It's a lot to unravel, like trying to untangle a ghost story itself.
And maybe that's what's so fascinating about the Queen Mary. Haunted or not, it forces us to confront the unknown, makes us question what we believe,
Yeah.
and acknowledge how powerful stories can be, how
Yeah.
they shape the way we see the world,
Yeah.
how we experience things.
It's a good reminder. Sometimes the best mysteries, they aren't about finding all the answers. They're about exploring the possibilities. So whether you're a skeptic or you're a believer, the Queen Mary, it stays with you, leaves you with that lingering question.
For sure.
How much of what we experience is really just what we expect, what we want to believe?
That makes you think.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We've gone from those chilling tales on the Queen Mary to the psychology of belief and even the ethics of it all. But we want to hear from you. What do you believe? Let us know. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.